And with that, of course, wealth in one sense, as it's been mentioned sometimes, allows a certain time. You can exchange money for time. Right? Wealth, poverty. Because if you don't have enough money, you have to work. You have to use your time to buy. You have to use your time to buy substance, to provide yourself with existence, and therefore money allows a certain degree of freedom if used wisely. All right. Now, there are all kinds of beauty. Let's go for the top, right, which he calls bliss. Therefore, this person, therefore, should be able to look at you and say, let's take a look at you now. Let's see. You have certain abilities, and this is the assessment of where you are. Right? And now he has to then be able to direct you to these kinds of beauty. We picked the highest one, bliss. And while you're going through this whole thing, your primary goal is always, while this is going on, this quest for this kind of knowledge, is to keep in mind the nature of your soul. So I could read you now a section and see if we did any damage to it. Okay. And whoever took up a lot saw plainly what number he had drawn. And after this again, the prophet placed the patterns of the lives before them on the ground, far more numerous than the assembly. They were of every variety, for there were lives of all kinds of animals and all sorts of human lives, for there were tyrannies among them, some uninterrupted till the end, others destroyed midway, and issuing in penuries and exiles and beggars. And there were lives of men of repute, for their forms of beauty and bodily strength, and prowess and high birth and virtues of their ancestors. Of course, the same thing for women. But there was no determination of the quality of soul, because the choice of a different life inevitably determined a different character. But all other things were commingled with one another: wealth, poverty, sickness, health, and all the intermediate conditions. And there, dear Glaucon, it appears as the supreme hazard for a man. This is the chief reason why it should be our main concern that each of us, neglecting all other studies, should seek after and study this thing, if in any way he may be able to learn and to discover the man who will give him the ability and the knowledge to distinguish the life that is good from which is bad, always, everywhere, and to choose the best that the conditions allow, taking into account all the things which we have spoken, and estimating the effect of their goodness on this life, of their conjunction or their severance, to know how beauty commingled with poverty or wealth, and combined with what habit of soul operates for good or for evil, and what are the effects of high and low birth and private and public station and office, and the strength and weakness, and the quickness of apprehension and the dullness of all. And similar acquired habits of the soul when blended and combined with one another, so that with consideration of all these things he'll be able to make a reasoned choice between the better and the worse life, with his eyes fixed on the nature of his soul, naming the worse life that which will tend to make it more unjust, and the better that which will make it more just. And all other considerations he'll dismiss, for we've seen that this is the best choice both for life and in death. So a man must take with him to the house of death adamine faith in this, that even there he may be undazzled by the richnesses and the similar trumpery that may precipitate himself into tyrannies and similar doings, and so work many past evil. So that's where so look here. All of these points then, each of these points, how to make these decisions, what it involves, is a subject in the Republic. Therefore, in the Republic, we have each one of these issues is discussed. Each one of these is given a certain area where Socrates explores it in a certain degree of depth. So he brings it all together in the myth of error, and he's saying, you know what you need? You need to find someone who knows the Republic and who can do it personally. Isn't that weird? I mean, isn't that strange? That's the way he ends it, right? That's what he's really doing. And therefore he says, he is one more. He's the second guide. Because your first guide makes sure you're going to do whatever it is you chose. And the only way out for him is this quest for using the mind to explore what it is you are. See, this is really telling you what you are. That's really what it is, isn't it? These are all the influences on your soul. You say, okay, now you know what? You got to know all that. Why? Because then if we're going to choose what kind of beauty you want to experience, each one of these things is going to play its role. And so in the end of this myth, Socrates says, if we are to be guided by me. So let me go back into that last couple of sentences. And he sneaked that in, right? But if we are guided by me, we shall believe the soul is immortal, capable of enduring all extremes, good and evil, and we shall hold ever to the upward way, pursue righteousness with wisdom, always, right, so that we may be dear to ourselves and to the gods, both during our sojourn here and when we receive our rewards in the next. He says, then he goes on and says, as the victors in games go about gathering in their fame. And thus, both here and in that journey of 1,000 years, whereof I have told you, we shall fare well. And let's throw it open for some questions and play some with it. That's the whole myth of error. And this is really the subject of Plato's Republic, condensed, compacted into the end of his myth. Clever? Yeah, he's quite a guy. I know someone who read all of it. So what is it like being taken through this strange thing called the myth of error?
Just a comment. In studying Chinese medicine, the goal